Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. It's my pleasure to introduce an excellent book from Jordan's which helps everybody who's involved at whatever level within the legal processes of a firm. And this is actually involving Irish law this time around. It's Jordan's Irish Company Secretarial Precedents, now in a 5th edition. It's been edited by Claire Lloyd, Leanne Brazel and Paul Egan. It's available as an ebook and as a CD to go with it. Elizabeth and I have given the title for our appreciation of following another first-class edition of this essential work on precedents from Jordan Publishing. Now, I've recorded another review. This is the Irish version. We have the English or the British, just the Jordan's Company Secretarial Precedents for the rest of us. But my remarks are specifically here about Ireland. Here's the book. It's a heavy book. It's a hardback. There is the spine. Then there's some information on the back, which I'll refer to in my review. What you've got is you've got a precedents CD to make sure things are much easier to do. You've got page numbering. There's your index for the book, and it's page numbered. It's got a detailed index. Then you've got summary approval procedures. Different system, of course, from the system we have in England and Wales, and certainly in the United Kingdom. There's the front page. It's corporate governance and compliance team from Mason, Hayes and Curran in Dublin. That's where they've come from. There's the basic information about the ebook and everything else, and the actual acknowledgements from the people involved. Now, again, it's very important, as with the other book on the general company Secretarial Precedents, do read the introduction, how to use the book, because it's a very simple book and extremely helpful. The laws are different from the ones we have in England and Wales, and I'll mention that in a minute, but you've got the basic same structure for the book. There's the contents section, a detailed contents section running all the way through. Then after that we'll just go into the chapters themselves. I just want to show you a little bit of how the chapters are structured. You've got there's chapter 1, the incorporation of a private limited company. So it sets out exactly where you are. You've got a number of appendices at the back of the book, and what you have got, of course, is you've got all of the various forms. And what you do have, which I shall mention, and it's the same with the British version, is you've got advice on how to fill the forms in, the precedents in. And I think that's incredibly important because it does save so much time. The purpose behind this is to give your advisors and all the people involved as much help and assistance as possible. Now, what do we say about it? This is, as I say, another first-class edition from Jordan's. We say this as always. These precedent books from Jordan's are an absolute boon for legal support staff, and the 5th edition of the Irish Company Secretarial Precedents is no exception. The editors, who I've mentioned, Claire Lord, Leanne Brazel and Paul Egan, are to be commended in our view for their excellent efforts with this new work, and they obviously come, as I say, from the firm in Dublin. Now, the titles, the 2 titles which Jordan's have produced and published, remain of fundamental importance for all involved in legal advice, and we really cannot carry out our functions properly without having this sort of assistance on a day-to-day basis, because it really does make a difference. And what the editors have done here is produce a title which provides precedents to cover situations faced by a company secretary or a professional advisor in relation to the management of private limited companies under the statutes under Irish company law, which of course is different from English law. Now, I'm going to mention, when I mention the acts, they're different from the English ones, just in case anybody's getting confused. So from 1st of June last year, 2015, the Companies Act 2014 came into force. This is in Ireland, and the changes have been profound for all of us. What the Act has done is to repeal almost the entire Companies Acts, that's 1963 to 2013, with the exception of some of the EU-derived securities law, and consolidate them in a single act. Now, obviously, we've had the same thing happening in the UK with the Companies Act 2006, but this again is the same sort of approach. Ireland's going to be different because Britain, of course, is leaving the EU. So there could well be quite substantial changes on the horizon. But with Ireland, no, that's not the same at all. What we have here, though, is statutory guidance on all the aspects of Irish law which relate to the formation, management, share capital, insolvency and investigation of companies, now contained in the provisions of the Companies Act 2014. One of the most fundamental changes, of course, brought about by the Act was the introduction of two types of private company limited by shares. Interesting approach. The private company limited by shares, that's the LTD, and the designated activity company limited by shares, or the DAC. Excuse me. That, of course, is a substantial difference from what we have in elsewhere. Now, the LTD is a simplified form of private company limited by shares, to which a range of streamlined governance reforms apply, whereas the DAC is more similar to the form of private company limited by shares that existed under the now repealed Companies Acts 1963 to 2013. So you can see there's been a substantial difference. What the editors have done is try to give you as much up-to-date information as possible, and a lot of advice on the filling in and the completing of the precedents, which I think is actually magnificent because it will save a lot of time. And that's really the benefits of this publication. Let me conclude by saying that the new 5th edition updates both the commentary and the statutory forms and precedents contained in the book in order to bring them within the compliance requirements of the new regime. The work which the editors have done with the new edition, in our view, is most commendable, and it does make our lives so much easier. So thank you very much to all three of you and all the other people who've been involved, including the Jordan's staff. The publication date is set at 2016. Obviously, it's to take into account the new legislation itself. It's a 5th edition, as I say. There it is, a heavy book, nice blue cover. There it is there, you can actually see the spine. Then you've got a lot of the information, part of which I've been mentioning here, some of the changes, but do bear in mind you've got a very useful CD, which is a great help. If I open the book just in the middle, these are precedents, you've got the number of the precedent there. You should be able to find it quite easily when you go into the CD and upload anything. And then you've got the various precedents, you've got lists and everything else. And the whole purpose of this, note, you see there are notes on completion, which again, very helpful. The whole purpose of this is to save as much time as possible. It is actually a brilliant time saver, apart from anything else. So I'd like to thank all concerned very much indeed for producing it, and especially a word of thanks to Jordan's for actually undertaking, with the change to LexisNexis and everything else, to continue publishing these works. It makes our lives a lot easier, so thank you very much to all concerned. Bye-bye.